Hi everybody, this is Jake Kerr, and today I'm going to go through the Reddit prompt number 19 and write it along with you on this recording. So hopefully this will be helpful for some of the newer writers and entertaining for some of the more established writers. And if nothing else, I will have a good time. A couple of the ground rules, or at least information to know up front. I haven't seen the prompts. It's at our screenwriting on reddit.com. And what I'm going to do is go into this fully blind. I'm going to look at the prompts. I'm going to start putting together my ideas. I'm going to speak them out loud to you so you can see what I'm doing. And then I'm going to start writing the script. Just so you know, the script is limited to 2 pages. And that gives me room to work with 5 prompts for sure, but it also seriously constrains what I can do in a scene. So that's the challenge. And this is the kind of thing that will make writers better. I've written quite a bit in my life, and I always love the chance to practice and get better, and these types of things are really good for that. A little bit of a background for me on why or how I could do this. For almost 2 decades, I wrote to a deadline as a columnist, and then for the last 10 plus years, I've been writing fiction. So writing to the pressure of a deadline alongside with writing fiction is not alien to me. So this won't be hopefully too difficult for me. I generally write in Final Draft, and occasionally I'm starting to write more in Fade in Pro because I really love the dark mode that they use. But just to kind of give everybody an illustration that really you could use whatever tool is comfortable for you, I'm going to play around with a relatively unknown program called Arc Studio Pro. So I'll be producing this in Arc Studio Pro, and you can see that it's really not very much different than the other screenwriting programs. In the future, if I do more of these, I may use Writer Duet, or I'll use Final Draft, or what have you. I'll move around because I want it to be very clear to people who are new to writing that you shouldn't get caught up in the tools. The tools, generally speaking, are pretty well made and can get the job done. All right, let's get starting. I'm going to look at this prompt for the first time. It's on the other screen. It is: the scene must contain a cat in any way, shape, or form, living, dead, painting, sculpture, etc. Character is passionate about something. That actually is very helpful, because when you have a mood with a character, it will definitely help shape the scene. The story cannot take place in present day, which is defined as 2010 to 2019. That's not going to be too difficult because I generally will write in science fiction and fantasy, so working outside the present day is not going to be too hard. Something strange must happen. Again, goes into my wheelhouse as being a science fiction writer, and someone has to eat something. All right, so these are the prompts. I haven't heard or seen them before. Let me just do some some brainstorming. The first thing I would like to think of is eat something. That's the action that's going to happen in this scene that I want to focus on. The other thing is something strange. I think of strange and eating. The first thing I think about is how can we make eating strange? And I kind of like the idea of cannibalism here. Something is eating something that it shouldn't. It doesn't have to be cannibalism. It can be something strange, but that's kind of what's going through my head. It's not the present day, so maybe it's the past or the future. Right now, where my head is going is maybe setting this in the the Old West, like the Donner Party. And character is passionate about something, and we've got a cat. All right, here's where my head immediately goes. Donner Party in the 1800s. They're trapped in a snowstorm. 2 characters, the last 2 characters left. It's not going to be historically accurate, but come on, it's a writer prompt thing. And the one has a cat who he's been keeping alive as they've been facing death, and the other one is saying, "Eat the cat," and he's going to end up eating the other character. How about that? That's kind of a fun scene. I have very, very strong doubts I can get that done in 2 pages, but let's see what we can do here. It's probably worth noting that this is actually very similar to a story called A Boy and His Dog that was written by Harlan Ellison, but that's okay. This is a prompt, and let's call it an homage, and we'll go from there. All right, I'm going to share my screen. Let's pick my window. We're going to use Arc Studio Pro. Title is Reddit Prompt Challenge number 19, Jake Kerr. We'll create the script. Hopefully you can see this. First thing I want to do is we want to make this a scene title. All right, this is going to be exterior on the how about in the Donner Pass? Now I could do this a number of ways. I could say inside a wagon, inside a tent, something along those lines. But I want to kind of have a sense of desperation here. So let's do, they're outside on the pass. And this is going to be, really this is arbitrary. It could be day, night, afternoon. I probably want it to be where there's light out and it's easily lit because we really want to focus on the fact that there's a cat there. Another option here would be to do it at night, and the director could use the lighting to focus on their faces as they're having this intense 2-page conversation. But again, we got the variable of the cat, so I'm just kind of somewhat arbitrarily just pick day. All right, here's another aspect of this that we have to deal with, and that is that I'm used to using Final Draft, and I'm using that. All right, so now we got to pick some names, Old West names. In the deep snowdrifts. And we have to describe the characters because it will set the scene in terms of where they're at. And emaciated, let me see, what's a good Old West name? Benjamin Wills. How about that? Oh, all caps to character. And again, we don't really care about their ages, so I'm going to kind of arbitrarily say 30s. And here's a choice we have to make. So this is the character who's going to have the cat, and he's going to be thinking nonsensically, the cat is more important than our survival. So I want to have a sense of either desperation there, and it can make him an old guy, and that's all he has left to live for, or he could be someone young and naive, and he's just thinking that they're going to be saved. I'm going to go the young and naive route. So let's go with something like a John Gibson. And again, I'm pulling the names out of thin air. They could be anything. And let's say late teens. And we know that Benjamin's emaciated, so we say, and a similarly fragile. The fragile doesn't work there. We want to describe him physically, you know what? Let's not overcomplicate it. We don't have a lot of space. It's an emaciated Benjamin Wills and John Gibson. So let's go with that. Late teens. Clearly the nice part about typing a screenplay is you can go use the backspace key. In the deep snowdrifts, the Donner Pass, and emaciated Benjamin Wills and John Gibson are surrounded by the remains of the Donner Party, including visible bones, a dead horse, and the sad excuse for a shelter that has blown down. All right, that sets the scene. They're in the Donner Pass. We already know it's the Donner Party. We don't really have to say too much more than that in terms of setting the scene. And we know we have our two characters and they're emaciated. So this is the end of the line for the Donner Party. We really don't have to say much more than that. Okay, now we have to get into the dialogue. The dialogue is going to be a conflict between John, who has this little cat, and he's not going to eat the cat, and Benjamin, who has to convince him. Now, Benjamin's in his 30s, and let's say that he hasn't lost his wits, so he's trying to be sympathetic as well. So he starts out with some kind of line that will say something along the lines of, things aren't so bad, or well, no, he wants to say the opposite. Things are really bad. But he wants to do it in a way that it won't disturb young John because it is his cat. So let's start with that. Benjamin, you've done good. We need to make some hard choices, John. All right, John's not dumb. He knows they've already eaten humans, and there's not a whole lot left. So he says, looks like we've done a lot of that pretty much already, Ben. Now, I like the idea of them using their first names. Because it illustrates a distance. If I was just talking to you and you're my friend, I'd be like, hey, how's it going? What's going on here? I wouldn't say, hey, John, how you doing? Oh, well, yeah, John. There's a distance when you use a name, and then there's a further distance when you use a last name, and there's an even further distance when you use something like a Mr. or Ms. So I wanted to start with a little bit of distance here, so I'm going to have them use their names. So it's like, hey, we've been through a lot, but I'm going to call you by your first name. And also the dialect I'm using, we've done good, and looks like we've done a lot of that pretty much already. I'm really winging it. If I were to go back and revise this, I would spend a lot of time on the dialogue. But I kind of like how that sounds, so let's go with that. All right, Benjamin again. Looks like we've done a lot of that pretty much already, Ben. Thing is, we're near the end of the line. I want to pause there. Again, I'm going to pause a lot because I really want to explain my thinking here. You know, we're near the end of the line is a bit of a cliche, but it's also something that someone would say naturally. You kind of want to avoid cliches in dialogue, even if it's something that someone would say in real life, because it will sound to the ear of the viewer that it's a cliche, even if it sounds realistic. If you look at the dialogue of someone like, any number of people, Nora Ephron, I mean, you go through the people who, Nora Ephron's not a great example, actually. I can't even think, who am I thinking of? All right, doesn't matter. I'm thinking about stories, not people. The bottom line is you can use stylized dialogue and people will go for it. But right here, I'm just writing it out, so I'm going to go with the dialogue that makes sense to me, and I'll send it through them. Odds are that when people read this, I might get dinged for the cliche, but I'm thinking that they'll like the give and take of the dialogue better. So it's only a challenge. I have limited time. All right, thing is, we're near the end of the line. Looks like the storm is breaking. If we just don't break first. All right, I like that. All right, thing is, we're near the end of the line. Looks like the storm is breaking if we just don't break first. John is like, all right, we'll make it. Don't worry about me. I can handle it. All right, Benjamin has to lead some hard truths here. I get what you're saying, John, but we're both really weak, and even if the storm breaks soon, it will be a while before someone can get here, let alone if we want to stumble. Yeah, not stumble. He wants to inspire here. So instead of stumble our way to freedom, he'll say, if we want to hack, not even hack, that's not good. To crawl, not crawl. What's the word I'm looking for? He wants to, they're gonna have a challenge to get to freedom. It's gonna be really difficult, but it's not crawl, it's not hack. A while before someone can get here, let alone if we want to. I'm gonna go generic here. Risk the effort of working our way down the mountain. All right, so we're at an interesting point here. So John's saying we can make it. Benjamin's saying, like, there's more we need to do. And so John has to basically say that. He's like, he said, what are you trying to say? I don't get what you're trying to say because I'm Mr. Optimistic Teen. So let's go with that. So John is optimistic, thinks they can make it, but he kind of gets where Benjamin's going. So he's going to kind of hint around by asking a question. I'm not sure what you're getting at. Could have said getting at, but that's kind of what I would look at in revision. Right now, I think getting at makes it sounds fine. I'm not sure what you're I'm not sure what you're getting at. Often when you work on dialogue, just saying it out loud will give you the answer that you're looking for. Getting at sounds better, especially because We Done Good is up there and done a lot. We're using a kind of like frontier language. All right, I'm sure what you're getting at. Very blunt, to the point, and this is it. So I still have quite a bit of space here. If you look, I've got about a third of a page and I still have another page. So let's start thinking about how we want this to go. I set up in the first, say, third of this piece that they're facing this challenge. Benjamin thinks they got to make a hard choice, and John says, I don't know what you're talking about. Well, we already know from my kind of walking through that the hard choice is going to be they got to eat the cat, right? We need energy. But again, Benjamin's going to work up to that. So right now he has kind of, no pun intended, pussyfoot around. God, I feel dirty just saying that, to eating the cat. So I'm going to start down that gentle path now, and I think that will take us into the beginning of the second page and then to a pretty good denouement at the end of the scene. So on the end of page 2. Well, we're going to need energy. By the way, at this point, I'm thinking ahead. I'm not sure how other people operate, and often you can just go line by line and come back and revise. But right now I'm thinking like, hey, I've got 2 pages, right? And structure is so important in screenwriting. You have acts, you've got a limited number of pages. You have to think about how much space do I have to get what I want to do. In this case, I've got a page and a third to get to the point where they have the falling out about the cat, and John kills Ben to eat him, and that's how it's going to be energy. I'm thinking right now I won't have time to get all that in. And I mentioned that at the very beginning. I kind of was unsure. So right now I'm thinking like, is that going to break this? Is this just not going to work? Well, I think it will work. It's just that we may have to end with a kind of like ominous, he eyes up the other. I mean, that's kind of horrible, but you know what I mean? I'm thinking like, I haven't drawn myself into a corner here. It will work if I leave it hanging. It could be a great end of first act type of thing where we all know what's going to happen, but it doesn't happen. It's just going to happen in the future. Or I might be able to conclude it with, John chowing down on a good meal and he hands a finger bone to the cat to chew on. I mean, I really love that kind of image to close this out, but we just might not. I mean, I don't love the image. It's gross, but you get the idea. I love it in the dramatic sense. All right, well, we're going to need energy, Benjamin says. John, I was like, not sure we have anything left to eat. My shoes are down. My shoes and clothes are about, have no leather left. They're out of leather, right? My shoes and clothes got no leather left. And you ate some twigs last night before you tossed them this morning. Toss them up. We want to be a little bit more visual in our dialogue because it's not going to be on the screen. It's in hindsight. Toss them up this morning. All right. All right, Benjamin definitely needs to move toward the cat now. We're getting toward the end of the first page, and not only that, in terms of his motivation, he needs to start moving down the road. But he's still hoping John come to his own idea, because actually, let's do something here. Let's add some action lines. We have done nothing with the cat so far, so let's look here. John, looks like we've done a lot pretty much already. Somewhere along the line here, we need John to stroke the cat, or have the cat nuzzle against him. So I like this. We'll make it. Don't worry about me. I can handle it. Then what we'll do here is John lifts his cat, which is in surprisingly good shape, to his face and nuzzles it against his cheek. So now we get a sense that the cat is there. It's in good shape. So apparently John's prioritizing the cat over Benjamin and himself, and also that it's providing him solace. He says, I can handle it, and he lifts the cat and he nuzzles it against his face. So that's a really good image there. So let's fast forward. Benjamin's about to speak, but John just said we're out of food. Now let's do another visual reminder here. And obviously you can trust the director, but oftentimes in a script you want to kind of passively aggressively nudge the director into making a choice. It's completely unnecessary for us to remind the audience that the moment John says there's nothing to eat and you tossed up twigs and he lifts up the cat, we don't need to do that. The director can kind of figure that out, but no need to do it. And it's a good idea to do it. It's a pretty fine line. I think it's a good idea to do it here. And plus, I got space to work with. This isn't going as slowly as I was worried about. So right here, we'll say, let me see. The cat nibbles on the fringe of John's socks. We see red and frost. How about black? Let's make it even worse. Black frost-bitten toes under the wool. Under the wool. Now, I was tempted right there, under the wool where the cat is licking. Completely unnecessary. The cat's nibbling on the fringe of the socks. We're going to see the black frostbitten toes. Anything beyond that, let the director figure out. It's really not that big of a deal. We don't need to worry about that. All right. Now, so we got a reminder that the cat is giving him solace and the cat's in good shape. We've got a reminder that he's actually in bad shape. He's got his frostbitten toes and are black, and yet the cat's having fun nibbling on his wool. I think that a little bit goes a long way there, and we've done everything we need to do to set up the kind of denouement of this piece, the end of this two-page scene. All right, let's go back to the dialogue. Not sure we have anything left to eat. My shoes and clothes got no leather left, and you ate some twigs last night before you tossed them up this morning. Benjamin is like... All right, so Benjamin has to kind of point toward the cat. He goes, I hesitate to mention it, John. Again, remember what I said early on, when you use a name as opposed to like, hey, we're talking here. I don't have to mention your name because we're in an intimate conversation. When he mentions his name, it adds a little bit of distance. Now, if this was even more formal, we could say, I can't remember his name, Mr. Gibson. Hesitate to mention it, Mr. Gibson, which also sounds very Old West, but this isn't that formal. This is like, we're friends, but I have to address you in a more serious manner. So I hesitate to mention it, John. But there is some food sitting right here that we haven't discussed yet. All right, this is a very, very key response. John says, petted his cat, it's soulless, the cat's chewing on his toe. There's no way in hell John is going to let that cat get eaten. But not only that, he's so out of his mind in hunger and all of that he's oblivious to the fact that this would even come up. So John looks, let's add an action line. John looks around. John looks around. All right, so here comes the oblivious part. John. Let's do this. Let's make him even crazier. Not crazy in the sense that he's maniacal, but crazy in the sense that he's crazy from hunger and this kind of insane attachment to the cat. John looks around. Smiles. All right. John, you holding out on me, Ben? You got some bacon, or how about, okay, again, Old West, salted bacon? Actually, we don't have to. So I was going to say that, food will rot, but in the Old West, they would salt it to keep it fresh, even going further back than that. But they're in a freaking frozen tundra. They don't have to worry about food spoiling. So let's not distract the audience. Let's just say you got some bacon. Maybe you were playing some tricks on me with the twigs. Gotta admit, that had me scared for you. But if that was a trick, was a mighty good one, considering the circumstances. All right. Ben's, he's at the end of his rope. We're in the second page. We got to get toward the end here. We may even have time to have this go into the cruel direction. So let's say now he's got to be very apologetic because he's going to say exactly what's on his mind. Sorry, my friend. All right, my friend, I'm telling you some bad news. Sorry, my friend. I was talking about your cat. When life is approaching, when we are approaching decisions about life and death, the hard choices as to who comes out on top have to be made. You know, I would never sacrifice you if I had to, but that is a cat. Now, this is the Donner Party, so I want to make this a little bit longer because it's a good throwback to talk about the fact that they did partake in cannibalism earlier. But let's kind of humanize it a little bit. Sorry, my friend, I was talking about your cat. Before we do that, you know we had to make some hard choices before we did it right. We drew straws and the folks stood up and did the right thing when they was chosen. All right. This is a monologue, and one of the things I like about I like doing in a monologue is splitting it up so it makes it easier for the actor. Not a lot of people like doing that. Well, I don't know. It's probably split pretty evenly, but I like to do it. So let's see. I don't know how to do that in Arc Studio Pro. There we go. All right. We drew straws, and the folks stood up and did the right thing when they was chosen. All right. But times are what they are, that a cat is not just a minor thing. We are desperate for crumbs. What I want to try to kind of imply here is that no one bothered eating the cat because when you got 20 people who are hungry, a cat's not going to go very far. So you eat the big guy or whoever got the short straw. So I want to make it kind of add some verisimilitude here so that people realize that, hey, the cat lived and wasn't eaten because there was no reason to eat the cat. It was either the cat and a human or just the human. Well, you may as well just eat the human. Why torture a cat with death or have a cat with death? And plus, there was most likely an emotional connection with others as well. So they did what they had to do. All right. These all go through my head as I'm writing dialogue and I'm figuring out what the motivation is behind it. But times are what they are, that a cat is not just a minor thing. It matters. It will matter. No, it matters. It matters a lot. All right. All right. I don't worry about the crumbs. So how do we want to do this, right? I think I used a little too much here. So I'm a friend. You know, we had to make some hard choices before. We did it right. We drew straws, and the folks stood up and did the right thing when they was chosen. The times are what they are, that, but times are different. It's you and me, and all right. Now I could do a parenthetical here, but I want to make it more clear. Benjamin. Does he nod at the cat? Yeah, nods toward the cat and says nothing else. All right. I like that. Oh, did too much there. I like that because it would be very easy for me to have Benjamin say, "It's the cat, stupid." But we have to trust our cloud of partners, the actors, in powerful moments to deliver what they can deliver to make the script better. In this case, it feels like the actor will do a better job portraying the emotions of him saying, "I'm talking about your cat." So I'm going to trust the actor to do it. Benjamin nods the cat and says nothing else. The actor can make it a nod. The actor can do any number of things to make it amazing, and I'm going to trust them to do that. So John's now going to speak. Now, I could add an action item here for John or a parenthetical like dawning comprehension or something like that, but really it's obvious. John, and we're going to make it obvious in the dialogue. John knows exactly what Benjamin is saying. The actor did their job. John. I'm afraid I don't agree with you, Ben. Now Benjamin has to say, be reasonable. Be reasonable. We're building toward the big climax here. And I think doing you got to do the right thing, you have to be reasonable, and we have to kind of make it that in Ben's mind, it's moving toward killing the cat. But John is starting to say like, hey, I've got to do the right thing, and I have to make a decision, and I have to be reasonable. And his twisted state of mind, it's, I'm going to kill Benjamin. So we're kind of, that interplay has to build that up, and that's what kind of I'm working toward. I'm afraid I don't agree with you, Ben. Be reasonable. I love that cat as much as you do, but it's... Now, here's where I have a choice. He has to be forceful. Now, this would depend if it's a TV show. It would depend if it's going to be a movie that is R-rated or G-rated or any of those things. The question I'm basically struggling with here is, do I drop an F-bomb? I think you do. Frickin', damn, none of them are powerful enough to illustrate in this very cordial conversation in a desperate circumstance that Benjamin is finally at the end of his rope and that things are desperate. So Benjamin says, be reasonable. I love that cat as much as you do, which he doesn't, but it's a fucking cat. We need food, and that thing has been eating better than we have. All right, and there you have it. He calls it a thing. He starts out saying that it's unreasonable and calls it a fucking cat. Benjamin starts out, I love that cat as much as you do, but he's desperate and he starts getting stronger and stronger in his emotions. And finally says, and he says the one thing he's been wanting to say for days, the cat's been eating better than we have, and that is, you're crazy, John. And John, we need to have, I like the idea. There's a real challenge here. I want there to be a pause where John is kind of processing this. I want there to be that pause. But at the same time, I don't want to force it on the actors. I want them to be free. So what I'm going to do is just right here, beat. A beat can mean a lot of different things. And in this instance, what a beat means is take it however you like it, but I'm putting a pause here. Now, the actor could just ignore it and run with it to however they like, but I've made my peace. I've let them know that I feel like a pause as John is parsing all this. And now what does John say? I'm afraid that's not going to happen, Ben. All right, let's look down here. We got very few left, so let's do this. Let's go right to the conclusion. I don't even think we need dialogue here. Exterior, the Donner Pass. Later. sparse fire burns in front of John. He is chewing meat off a small bone. He rips some flesh off, and then we pull back as John reaches over and gives the meat to his cat. Let's say, action. The cat licks what is clearly a finger bone. All right. So there we have it. I think we did a pretty good job. I'm going to go back and revise this a little bit, but I just wanted to walk through and I don't want to take too much of your time. Hope you like that. And once again, this is Jake Kerr. Maybe do this again using a different program like Final Draft, but hope you had fun. Thanks.